Hello everybody and welcome back to Electronics Jensen, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Jensen. Now today's video is something that I have to kind of produce now, because if you've followed me for a while now, the last time I uploaded anything on social media was here on my YouTube, and that was the unboxing of the Nintendo Switch 2 accessories I got over Christmas. Since then, I've not been uploading, and this video today is to more or less explain what's been going on with me over the past few months. And this is, so, this video will just be me being totally honest about what's been going on. I'm not gonna lie. So it is health related. I'm going to be explaining some symptoms that I had, a procedure that I had done, and what the outcome was, or what it was, and then I'll explain what happened. I'll obviously be talking you through what procedure I had, and then there'll be some just general updates towards the end, but it is going to be health related for the main portion of this video. So, what has been going on? So, in mid-January, I was referred by my local doctor to have something, what is called a gastroscopy. This is a form of an endoscopy. So for those of you like me who never had one before, an endoscopy is essentially literally a tiny little camera. It's probably no bigger than something like the lead end of a pencil. It's probably no bigger than that. And what that is, they put it into your mouth, and then it goes down your throat, down into your esophagus, and it goes deep into your stomach. And again, that's just a quick overview of what the procedure is. I will obviously explain why in a second. So obviously, because I've had that procedure, that obviously has had just a bit of an impact, and sort of that is the main thing that happened. So because of that procedure, although that was back in January, the subsequent like what I've had since in terms of treatment has just sort of just had me in my head going, I just don't want to be doing any sort of uploading or anything like that just until I'm confident. And now I am confident again to start doing this, but because I've not been uploading on YouTube, Instagram, Thread, or LinkedIn, and if you want to follow me on there, I'll put the links in the description. This is, it's just nothing. I just didn't want to do anything just in case anything happened. So I suppose the question you're all going to be asking, since you've just mentioned endoscopy, or since I've just mentioned endoscopy, why did I have one? So over the last couple of years now, I had some what appeared to be swallowing problems. Essentially, when I sat down and had a meal, or if I was eating something, now this isn't something that happened all the time. This is just something, it was every so often, but I did then notice more towards second half of last year, it was starting to become a bit more frequent, where what happened was, it was getting stuck in my esophagus. So what I was eating was essentially getting trapped in my esophagus, and round about here, I'd start to feel like I felt a pressure there. So, and the way I can describe it is, it was like chest pain. It felt like chest pain here. And so because of that, I'm like breathing and things. So I was like this, like when you're gasping for air. That's what it felt like. And I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I mean, so sometimes what I could have done is, if I just took a big swig like this, like that, sometimes that would flush, whatever was stuck down. But at other times, no, it wouldn't do it. So, apologies if this is a bit, give this gross out, but yeah, essentially, I had to run to the bathroom and my head was down the toilet to get it back up. I had to retch it down. It was like regurgitation, I think it's called. So, yeah. And sometimes not even that would work. I just had to basically. So I'll do this and let it go down. So this happened initially. What I will say is, it wasn't like daily. It was every so often. There were things I kept thinking as to what it could be, because it can be all kinds of things. So when this first started, what I will say is, I thought I developed, my body had a rejection to what was like thick cuts of beef or meat. So things like steak was sort of initial thing. And I'm not making age of things here. I'm just putting into context what it was at the time, and what I thought at the time. So that's what I initially thought. So but then again, there were a weird thing, because sometimes I'd have it and that would happen, but then other times I'd have it and it didn't happen. So I just thought, oh, do you know what, that's me being a numbskull and not chewing it properly. Just something you probably think. So, I then try and chew that lot and let it go. Essentially, that's what because, like I said, that's what I initially thought. And eventually, I just decided, maybe I just can't eat this anymore, and, when you really like something, in terms of a food item, and then you can't have it anymore because your body rejects it. Just don't eat it. Just don't eat it. Thankfully, for me, that actually wasn't. I am able to have it again, but again, that's later on. However, then it did start to happen with other things. So other items as well, like maybe even softer items sometimes. But what I'll say is, it wasn't an issue with liquids as such, it was solid food that was causing this, like an irritation. And I'll be honest, this is probably something I should have done a while ago. But me being me, I was like, can't be bothered, because at the time, this is when, here in the UK, there was a load of wait times and stuff, and I just went, I just can't be bothered. And, if you have if you are showing health problems, that's the wrong thing. Don't be a numbskull and just ignore it, because that's the wrong thing to do. So don't do that. I know, it's that attitude. That's the wrong attitude. Don't do it. Something's wrong. You get yourself sorted. So yes, this was starting to happen with other things, and it was round about November last year, probably early November last year. Went out for a family meal to an Italian restaurant, and I kid you not, it was literally one bite out of a slice of pizza, and then that happened, and then I had a reaction. I couldn't eat the food. I couldn't eat it, but I did take it away. I didn't waste it. I did take it away. But I'm there in the bathroom, and literally that is what made me flip. And I'm like, right, this, I'm done. I've had enough. You know, I shouldn't have, like I said, I should have had it done earlier and not wait for my patients to have had enough. So I arranged to go see my local general practitioner, but the earliest appointment I could get was the 8th of January this year in 2026. So I just decided, well, I'm not getting in before then. It's going to be the 8th of January 2026. So I signed it in, send it off. Then, and yeah, obviously November and then December over the Christmas period. No, yeah, don't get me wrong, there were a couple of things, and and because of this, there were times where we would go out and I'd be like, do I really want to? But I wasn't going to be stubborn. I wasn't going to be selfish and say no. Because sometimes it happened, sometimes it didn't happen. So I think it was just dependent on the day. But yeah, just don't be. It's not good to sit in the house because then, you're not getting your exercise, you're not getting fresh air, and you're not getting, especially on a warm day, which only happens once a month, 1 month a year here in England. Vitamin D. But again, like I said, Christmas period, we're a couple. Thankfully, non-round saw Christmas Day, Boxing Day that long. Thankfully, there wasn't such a thing then. So, we have Christmas, we have New Year, and a week later, it's time for me to go and to go to the GP and just see why this has been happening. Now, what I will say, because this is something that does run in my family, I thought initially, what I initially thought was that it was acid reflux, because this is something that does actually run in my family with acid reflux. Because that was something that was brought up around the time when this was happening. Have I developed acid reflux? Because, it's natural to think that way, isn't it? When you're showing something and you know that it's something that happens in your family, has it been passed on? Just something out of the norm. Nothing really that, nothing anything serious like, but, just something along those lines. So, yeah. So, on the 8th of January, we go in, and she calls me in. I go into her office. Obviously, just quickly check the details to make sure who I am, that they match. And then so then obviously she's like, so what can I do for you? And I say, well, I've basically been having some sort of swelling issues where I feel like food's been getting stuck in me esophagus. And she said, right, okay. Because, this isn't something that a lot of people come in with around sort of the time, So, yeah. There's that around the time. But, because things can be different with everybody, can't they? So, I explained to it all, and what I say is, I wondered, as I said, if it was acid reflux. Acid reflux, because that's sort of what I thought. And so what she said to me was, well, it does sound like it could be something related to acid reflux, because of course it's acid building up and going back up your esophagus where you get that sensation. Because like I said, this wasn't something that was happening all the time. This was something that was happening like within spaces, essentially. So like that's what it was. And so what she said was, there's two options you can have here. So you could have the test for acid reflux to see if it is, because it could be, or for a more thorough examining, I go for this, the gastroscopy, which is, like I said, it's an endoscopy at time. Obviously, because this has been going on for a while, I decided, Joe, let's have the more thorough examining. I'll go for the gastroscopy. So I'll go for that. And she said, okay. Now, so she'll refer me to the hospital local where they do endoscopy procedures. So she ran me through what I would have to do on the day and what it is. And so, I was warned it would be uncomfortable. And again, I'll explain that later. However, there was a moment when, and obviously I get it, I have to be warned, but she did say that I will just warn, he said, I don't think it sounds like it, but I think that, it could always be the chance that it could be cancer. I was like, hell. Oh, I mean, I get it. I have to be told in case it is. But that me off like nothing. Because, I mean, I will just say now, right? When you watch a TV show or you're watching a film and it goes to an advert break and, unfortunately it brings up these adverts about people with cancer, both adults and children. And, and you just think, oh my gosh, what was that be like having to go through that? Because you hear the stories, it's not pleasant, it's not a pleasant thing. And, and I have full respect for everybody who has to go through this, because it's just a horrible thing to think of, that could be you. So yeah, and because of that messed in my head. Because here's the thing, okay? So unless, like I said before, unless it's something that runs in your family, say there's a history of breast cancer or there's a history of prostate cancer, just to name a two, you would obviously know what the symptoms were, and if you're shown them, you could think, is it that? But unless it's something that's like that, when you're feeling off it, or whenever you're showing something weird, do you actually think it could be cancer? No, you don't. Which is probably the reason why whenever anybody does get that diagnosis, and when they're told that they're certain, that the medics are certain that it's that's when that's what does you in. Because it's not just the physical aspects, it'll be the emotional aspects as well. So, yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, even to this day, that still does me in, but thankfully I have calmed down now, because I've had the procedure. So, she sends a referral to my local hospital, and I'm essentially just waiting back for a letter with a date. And also in the UK, if you're someone like me in the UK and you have the NHS app, that would also come up as well. So I'd get a notification on there when my date is. Obviously, because I've never had one of these before. I was, searching around on YouTube and I was looking at other medical sites. And I will say, please use proper, genuine medical sites. If you are researching something like this, don't use AI, because the AI, we know, sometimes can get it wrong. Use a proper medical website for anything you've never heard of, or because it's good just to try and have an idea on what's to be expected. Okay? That's just be notice of, just take note of that. Just check. I'm not gonna lie, because of what they said, and that was messing with my head. I'm dreading it now. I'm dreading please now. And I asked myself this: surely though, if it was cancer, then surely if it's a tumour in the esophagus, as that tumour grows and gets bigger, surely then at least it will completely seal up the hole like this, and then there'd be nowhere, or it'd be happening all the time, and you'd feel it, your throat would feel bad and that lot. So I'm surely at least that could be a case. Yeah. So that happened on the 8th. And then on the, I don't know if it was the 11th or the 12th. I think I'd probably got it on the 12th, actually. Now I think about it. I received the letter with the appointment date, which is to be it was dated for Friday, the 16th of January. So I thought, actually, that's good. They've got me in a lot sooner, because I was informed it would actually be at the end of the month. But I'm glad it was sooner than it was, because obviously now my head's all over the place because of, cancer. So just for context, I was 20 at the time. I'm 21 now, over the last few months. But, it's when someone my age wants to get out there and do things, they don't want to have to put up with that, and to think, there's people younger than me who have fought cancer, who have survived, and, sadly, others are no longer with us. And it really is, what if it goes to the right wing and you get through it, or you go to the left wing and time's up. So it's dated 16th of January. In the letter, this booklet came in, and essentially it's a user guideline on what you get. Also, it has things like a consent form on the back as well. So essentially, it just has things like an introduction. So it just says essentially why they've referred you for an endoscopy, and that make sure you buy time to sign in the legal documents, and that you're fully aware of your procedure on that day. So there's different types of endoscopies, and I'll just give you the type that it is, and then why there's a bit that says, why do I need it? And again, it's because, well, like I said, I chose this. So I was given the option. I chose the endoscopy over the acid reflux test. Then there's preparation. It's about food and drink, medication, any allergens, and patients with diabetes. So on the day of your endoscopy, you cannot have anything to eat at all. So no food. It's got no food at all on the day of your endoscopy. And it also says no milky drinks, so things like milkshakes or putting milky coffees or milky teas, for example. You can't have them. You are allowed clear fluids. So obviously this wouldn't matter, but that wouldn't count. But you can have clear fluids like water for at least 2 hours up to your endoscopy. So at least 2 hours before your endoscopy, I should say. Medication. It'll just tell you when to reduce them. Allergens. There's a list of allergens because of the prescribed medication if you're allergic to, or what to put you under, for example. Diabetes, what's your insulin, because obviously your stomach's empty. There's then also things about how long the endoscopy lasts. It could take about 1 to 3 hours. I will personally say, yeah, I was in there for a good 2.5 hours. And then it just says what happens on the day of the arrival. I think rather than just read out this, I will personally tell you what I personally had on the day to give you a better understanding rather than just reading it. And then the final thing is about sedation and throat spray, which is a anesthetic throat spray. But again, that's something for later on. But this book just simply tells you what it is, what it does, how it can maybe ease you a bit. And then, so there's the actual examination itself. Any risks associated with these procedures. Now, the risk is low, okay? For the vast majority of people, the risk is low. It's nothing really to be concerned about. Obviously, there will be the odd few where it does. And then, and again, the risks, it's low. It's essentially if they accidentally poke the esophagus, put a hole through it, essentially. And then there's a thing that just explains after your procedure. And again, I'll explain that from my personal experience. There's also things in here like not to have the procedure. I think what I would personally say is if you have to avoid it, if you cannot, if for whatever reason you cannot have it done because you know of a reason why, then yeah, that's fine. But if you're not in any reason where you can't have it, just have it, okay? It's better to have the proper testing and the proper examination because it's easier, it's better, and the risk of you having a problem isn't going to be as much of an issue, essentially. And there's also general points to remember and guidelines for people with diabetes. Blood glucose, morning appointments. I did have an afternoon appointment, I will say that. My appointment was 4 in the afternoon. So this is probably the bit that applied more to me, you see. But yeah, I took this booklet with me anyway. A lot were in there with these booklets. So that's the preparation. What happened on the day of the endoscopy itself. So it's now the 16th of January 2026, the day of my endoscopy. I wake up that morning and I'm just, my nerves are all over the place, to be honest. Like, I was shaking and so my hands were shaking. Sometimes I'd be stuttering my words. It's just, because it's all in here. I mean, it's all in there, but I really am just dreading what could be the outcome. So the night before, I'd actually gone to the local fish and chip shop to absolutely stuff myself, knowing I wasn't going to be eating anything that day. I am going to be honest right now and say, because my nerves were so bad, I had no appetite. I was not hungry once on the day, because I think I'm just one of those where I just don't have an appetite when my nerves are sky high. I am just dreading what's going on. So, you might be wondering, what did I do on the day knowing I had a 4 o'clock appointment? I think one of the main things was to try and keep my mind occupied. So essentially, try and just like, and try and keep your mind off what's going on. It's really difficult though to do that, because, you know, nerves are nerves. And we all deal with things in different ways. There's no denying that. We all deal with things in different ways. So, but again, what did I do on the day? One of the main things is to do an activity that's really mind focused. And obviously, for those of you who've been following the channel, know I own a Nintendo Switch 2, and I've done a few videos on this bad boy. I know, and I will actually be doing a 1-year review, but I'll explain that later at the end. And so I'm going through all the games that I bought, trying to find one that really can keep the mind off, can really focus your mind, and maybe try and get rid of some of the nerves. And I did actually find one, and that is, now if you're someone who, shall I say someone, well, a Switch owner like me who's a bit of an imbecile and decided to waste £10 on the tech demo, right, on Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Believe it or not, there's actually a game in here that actually really did properly help me on the day. And that involves the use of this Nintendo Switch 2 camera. So, if we go into the game, you can see we've got a camera focused mini game here, and this game essentially allows you to use your Nintendo Switch 2 camera, and so on here it's like an emoji face. There's like an emoji face, and you essentially look into this camera and you gotta copy the facial expression the emoji face on the screen looks like, so something like this. Okay, something like that. And I'll show you how it works now. Here's some footage. Well, that's amusing, isn't it? It did work, okay? So, there's a use to get this bad boy, this £50 camera. It helps you distract yourself when you have to have an endoscopy. I'd try some other games as well, but again, or if you're not into gaming, try and find something else that can obviously just help. You know, with the distractions and stuff. Obviously, that can only work for so long because the time, you're getting closer. I did say though, obviously one of the things I did say is about fluids. So you are allowed fluids up to 2 hours, but something like this, which is Pepsi, you can't have. But if you are wanting to try and suppress hunger, you can, if you drink and what's called an electrolyte drink. So something there's like a sports drink. They have electrolytes and they're used to fuel the body energy for doing high sporting environments. Believe it or not, though, if you actually drink these and you don't use the energy, it suppresses the hunger, so you don't feel as hungry. But like I said, because my nerves were through the roof, I just didn't feel hungry at all. I just had no appetite. But I did get two of them. One to have before, and then one because obviously after the procedure. Again, I shouldn't really be saying after procedure right now, but I will shortly. So, yeah, so I took, taking sips out of this, and then it just helps, like, and also try and drink water, try and keep yourself hydrated, because you are pretty much relying on fluids on that day. So, but after I've drunk enough fluids and that game's only been able to help me for as long as I can. 3 o'clock comes in and off I go to the hospital. And then all of a sudden, the distractions I've tried to use, bang, are back to me. Nerves. Because you just don't know what's coming, really. And, I've read through this book, I've looked at YouTube videos, and I've looked at all kinds of things. But it's just what's coming, and it is that what's coming part that really can become an issue. So I arrived at the hospital for around 20 to 4. I get myself into the building, or the endoscopy unit, I should say, for 10 to 4, because should arrive 10 minutes before. So we go in, I walk into the room, and I'm anxious. What happens? So I wait for a little bit, and eventually a nurse comes out calls me in, and it's just the initial sort of checking me in kind of thing and doing. So in there, they'll ask for your name, your date of birth, where you live, and also you shouldn't be going on your own if you can. Try and have a family member or friend go. So my mum went with me. So what I did was I gave the nurse her contact details for when it was time for her to come and get me. What she then did is she took my blood pressure and then used an oxygen thing, the little clip the point of your finger to check your oxygen saturations. Obviously, because I was nervous, my blood pressure was up, but that is common with certainly people who've never had endoscopies before. Because that's just a reaction from the nerves. And so she does all that, walks me through it, and then, so this is now a crucial thing. So when on this consent form, you have to sign for the endoscopy. There's an option, and it's sedation or anesthetic throat spray. You get that standard. The latter is standard. The first one's an option. When I signed this consent form just before I left, I made the decision to have the sedation. And when you have the sedation, what they do, they put a cannula in your arm to put the sedation in when you go in for the procedure. So she does that. She puts the nurse puts the cannula in, and then I'm sent into a separate waiting room, which is just waiting for your endoscopist, which is the person who does your endoscopy. I'll probably stay in there for at least 40 minutes, probably 50 minutes. It got to like 5:30. Probably, so I've been there now. At this time, I've been there for about an hour and a half. And my endoscopist calls me into an office before. And then, and the team's there as well. They just call me into an office initially. They don't take me straight into the room because the team there before are finishing off and ready to start my procedure. I'm just going to be honest and say that team that looked after me were phenomenal. I could not have thanked them enough. They really did do an amazing job of keeping me at ease. I know the NHS does get lost it, but they were fantastic with me. They really were. So the endoscopist calls me in. I've got this cannula in my arm now. As you know, cannulas are really long needles, so you are getting a bit of discomfort in your arm. So obviously I have got questions. This is the person you probably should be asking any concerns about, because they're the person who's doing it. They know everything. So what she says is, what we're going to do, and although she doesn't have a replica of it, she just says, it's a very small camera, and like I said, I think it's no thicker than a pencil lead. So it is really small. So what she said is, it's going to go into your mouth, it's going to go down your esophagus and into your stomach. And we are just having a good look, see if we can find anything. And I knew she was going to say that because of the fact I was told about cancer earlier. Because this is how they test for cancer in this area. I will say, one thing I forgot to mention is that, so there's two versions of this. There's the endoscopy and there's the colonoscopy. And all I gotta say, if you have the colonoscopy, that one's actually worse as far as preparation is concerned, because you have to take an extremely powerful laxative to basically flush your system out. But thankfully, with an endoscopy, you don't have to do that. So, yeah, good luck for you with that. So I'm asking her what exactly it is, and she said, okay, so as well as the photos and the film they take, what they're also going to do, they're going to do a little biopsies as well. If they find anything, they'll do a biopsy to test it. So she's just sat there with me and we're just waiting to be called in. And then eventually we got called in. So she escorts me into the room. And it's not a massive room, I will say it's close, but it's not small either. So you have the bed that you lie on, and then there's two screens either side. So you have one screen there, and you have one screen there. Essentially, they are 180 degrees side by side. And so I get up onto the bed. They so obviously they've got the sedation ready, and because I've requested that. So I get up on the bed, put a little blanket over me. The first thing they do, because I asked for sedation, they put the syringe through the cannula, and the sedation goes in. Sedation is a bit like anesthetic that you would have if you're having a surgery, but this is the major difference, okay? So unlike with an operation where it's to do this, it's to knock you clean out, the sedation that they do for an endoscopy is to relax your body, which is fine. But they have to give you, I had 2 or 3 small syringes, because again, that's based on my height, and that's based on how my body is at the time. Because I was so nervous, I needed a slightly larger dose. But if you're not as nervous, you can Or if you're not, or if you're a bit more chill than I was, then you probably don't need as much. But essentially, it's just to calm your body down, to make it easier so you're not tempted to do so. So, essentially, what they asked me to do was so when I started to feel a bit drowsy, so my eyes would have started to go like this, they then put it's a breathing tube. It just goes here, and it goes around your ears, and then it clips on here. It's just an airflow, because obviously you need to breathe through your nose, because you're not going to be breathing in through your mouth when that camera gets inserted. So I have the sedation put in. I had to have a few. Eventually, and I said, right, I think we're ready. So what I did was, they told me I had to lay on my left side. So I had to lay down like this. I was laying like this. But I was looking, there was so man, this is the screen here, okay? That's the screen. And you're allowed to look at the screen. They give you a screen to look at as well, so you can see for yourself. And then obviously, where you can't see, there's one for the other team. So only you and your endoscopist are staring at the screen. So where you're lying on the left, I'm looking at the one on the left, everybody else is looking at the one on the right. And as obviously then the endoscopist can then explain what we're seeing. So you can close your eyes like this, or if you want, which is what I did, because I wanted to have a good look myself. Okay? So, and I know, and I bet if the lads from college are watching this, they're going to laugh at me and say, I feel bad for the endoscopist, because there'll be swear words written all down your endoscopy, or down your esophagus. No, I don't think that would. No, there's no swear words tattooed on there, thank you. So, because I feel like endoscopists would probably have a heart attack, those swear words written all down there. So, yeah. But basically, jokes aside, so it goes in, and what they do, there's a little cap, you stick it in between your teeth, it goes on here, and that allows them to feed the camera, put it down, it goes in your mouth. So one of the nurses will be there to help in there. One's actually doing this on you, just to try and give you a bit of comfort, which did work for me. But what happened was, the first time, it is uncomfortable, it's not comfortable, but it's not absolutely terrible. And I'll be honest now. Okay? Okay, there's no... and it's nothing too serious. It is uncomfortable. You do start choking, I have to admit. So it got to probably about here, and then... and I started choking, and my mouth started watering as well. So... yeah, so I did choke, but I just did this, and it's like, say, get out, get out, get out. and they could do that as many times until it's happened. Obviously, when the sedation, as it goes further in, as it goes further, maybe didn't wait enough, that's obviously allows it to do it. So it goes in a second time, managed to get it much further down, but then I reacted again. But, if you react and it's going further in, then that's off. Oh, that's a good sign. That just means it's just to get you used to it, that's all. Because obviously, when something's in our bodies that shouldn't be there, your body's natural instinct is to get it out. Okay? So, but you can't do that, because they're actually physically pushing that camera down you. So they keep telling you to do swallow, try and swallow. But it's difficult, because all you're thinking about is get this bleeding camera out of my mouth. So, yeah, there's that. But, so twice we tried to do it, and I had to have it taken out. And the third time was fine. And this is the part, this is now what the cause, I got to see the cause, because again, I'm looking at the screen. So eventually, it gets to one, and I can feel exactly where I kept feeling the blockage. The camera she tried to go further, it wasn't going anywhere. And it won't go in anywhere. So the test won't finish. It's supposed to go in your mouth, down your esophagus, into your stomach. Mine only went so far down my esophagus. So if I get this out, for example, to help you understand. So it goes in there, down there, into here. Mine only got to about here. Alright? The camera could no longer fit down. And it turns out the reason for this, and this is the reason for it, I had a narrowing in my esophagus. And this is a condition which is called, well, I can't pronounce it, I'll just put it up on the screen now. That's it. So this is a condition, essentially, so say this is the tube, it should be this thick, so this wide. I had a section that was like that. So the reason why I said food felt like it was getting stuck is because it actually was getting stuck, because it's pressured on that tiny narrowed part. And that's obviously, so that's why I was getting that feeling, because it actually was getting stuck because it couldn't go down. Once she explains to me what the problem is, what they then did, they took a literally, it's like a strand of wire, and they put it through a little section in the camera, and that allows them to take 2 biopsies, 1 on each side, to test. But she said the massive relief is that I did not have cancer, which was a massive relief. So that really did relax me. So the test is now finished. They pull me back up. I then go from like this and then lie on the bed again. I've still got the tube in though, but I still need to have that in for a little bit afterwards. And to take the blanket off me now, and I'm ready to be rolled into the recovery room. So one of the nurses rolls me into the recovery room, and then there they offer you, they'll take you have your blood pressure taken again, you have your oxygen. It is different because obviously now you've had that sedation put in you. So the sedation has now gone in, so that your blood pressure is low, and you are drowsy. So my eyes are like this. I'm not fully asleep, but I am partially not fully focused. There they offer you a drink, and they offer you a little biscuit or something, which I asked for. So I got a little bit of cordial juice and some water, and they do want you to have the water first, just to see if you're okay. So I'm just sat there for about 30 minutes, and the nurse comes and does me observations again. That once they're finished, that's it, I'm done with the observations, and I can have the nasal tube removed. So obviously she then, once I'm able to get into a chair. Once I'm able to. Sometimes if I wanted to, I could stay on the bed, but because of the amount I had, it's not like an operation where they want you to stay in for a bit. I can get off the bed into a chair. It's just to see if I can walk, which I could. By then I had got some movement in me. So my mum is now being called and has to come and get me. And so me and my endoscopist goes to see her, and she tells her what's happened, essentially. So that's it. That's why food was getting stuck in my esophagus, because I had a narrowed esophagus. What it sounds like was the cause was it's a kind of an autoimmune thing. So essentially, an immune system attack by accident has gone for my esophagus, accumulated by a buildup of white blood cells, often as a result of an overconsumption of dairy products. Now I did consume a lot of dairy before this. I drank milk on its own, yogurts, cheeses, that lot. Subsequently, I've stopped drinking milk completely because now I've started to feel things with it. But other things like cheeses, yogurts, where I do want to try and get natural calcium in my diet, that's still fine, thankfully. So the question is, okay, that's good, but how am I supposed to get rid of this narrow? Well, since January, probably, so a repeat prescription was requested for my local pharmacy, and so these are basically antibiotics, if you can see. They're essentially antibiotics, and they widen the esophagus, they widen the narrow bit. I do thankfully believe that it has worked, because where before I would actually feel where I'm feeling it, I'm not feeling it anymore. And I do also know that me swallowing has got better, because I'm not feeling any sort of anything sticking, anything getting stuck. So that is a massive relief. You know, so these tablets have worked. I am now on another set, and you stick them on your tongue like this, and essentially all that does is it just dissolves, and then hopefully that's worked. At the time of making this video, I am still awaiting a follow-up appointment. So I am still awaiting a follow-up appointment, so I'll have to have another one to check that it has worked, which I do think it has. If it hasn't, or if it's still there, which would now would probably that'd be the more appropriate solution, because I have noticed a difference. If it hasn't worked, then essentially they'll do a little operation to widen the narrow. And obviously, because of that, I have had to make a few changes, like, so yeah, not drinking milk anymore. This man's been alcohol free since January, and I still at this time have to remain alcohol free, because these are antibiotics and you must not drink alcohol if you're on antibiotics. I know for some people that'll be a disappointment, but just don't do it, okay? It's not worth it. So that is now the, if you like, main reason as to why I have stopped uploading over the last 4 months. But I suppose now I've covered all the main thing, I suppose you're going to be now wondering, what have you done anything over the last few months? Yes, I have. I have absolutely done a few things over the last few months. So please take a look. So there you go. There's everything I've been doing over last 4 months. I could have, could have put a few bits like that on Instagram, but like, so the Whitby trip at the time, that was not too long after I had the procedure, so I was still in the sort of early days where I was like, oh no. I think now that I think about it, I should have maybe just put something up to say, look, I'm not going to be uploading for a while now just because I'm having a few problems. Now, although keep it short and sharp, I have to say there has been things with some family friends as well, but I'm going to leave it on that one because I don't have permission to name or explain what's going on with them. I just got to say though, that was happening around the time this happened, so that was impacting on the emotional and the mental side of things. Are there any other general updates? Yeah, there are some general updates as well. So I'm searching for work. So anyone who wants to hire a metal fabricator or welder as an apprentice, I should have a LinkedIn page, which I'll leave in the description. I'm now a learner driver, so I've been learning to drive, which has been up and down the place. I did actually start before this health thing, so I was starting out before, so there had been videos filmed after starting out. And all I gentle bum, before you ask, I'm not a speeder, I don't break the laws. Promise. I don't. So that's a few general updates as well. There are other things happening, but that's irrelevant. So I suppose the question is, what's going to happen now with my YouTube channel going forward? Obviously, at this moment in time, I'm still sort of in the treatment stage. It's only really going to be, once it's all done, there will have to be another video update as to, when I've had it, what's going on. If it's done, I will just be fully honest now and say that after I had the cancer, the shock of the cancer mention, I did actually do an announcement video that would have gone up if I was positive for cancer, to let you know. But thankfully, I haven't had to use that video, so that's been deleted. I don't have to think about that anymore. So last 4 months have been all over the place. I'm not gonna lie. Things have been up and arming. I mean, I have been doing other things, I've been expanding Switch 2 things. I am planning to do a Nintendo Switch 2 1-year review. So if you have any questions that you want to ask me about, or anything to do with accessories like the camera, as well I have the Pro controller. I've also got the GameCube controller, an all-in-one case, the Joy-Con wheels. And I did also recently just buy mouse pads for the mouse controls. I have actually filmed a video on the mouse controls, which will probably come out a week after this video goes on, so you can try them. And I have recently also bought a second pair of Joy-Cons, because some games require these specific Joy-Cons, the Joy-Con 2s, not these Switch ones. And also, it'd be fun to see, shall we say, the wear and tear of these Joy-Cons. So these Joy-Cons that I've got on right now are the pair that came with my console. So we're to see how worn down these things are. But yeah, if you got any questions that you want to know about the Switch 2 or the games I've bought, I will do a review of all the games. Now, although I have been doing Switch 2 videos, I will point out I don't really tend to focus on the game. So if you want more opinions on the games, I would look at more gaming specific YouTubers. This channel is a mixture of things. I do tech reviews, I do vlogs. One of the big seasons, shall we say, I did last year. I went on a ship called the Pelican of London. And if you want to go see those videos, they're available now. There's a 6-part series as well as a 2-part compilation, which I actually did with a mate of mine who's also on YouTube called Harry PMTB. So shout out to him, go subscribe. And another guy as well. So there was that was fun. And like I said, I do want to do vlogs and stuff like that, but obviously I do, just take care of the more serious things, which is your health, your well-being, both your physical health and your mental health. So there's that. Obviously, I am not gonna. I do realise maybe that was wrong of me to just disappear altogether without a reasonable explanation. But the mentality and the sort of thoughts of things that have been going on did make a bit of an unsettling impact on me. So, this was just a full-on update video. Just to explain why I've been absent, what's been going on. You probably may have expected some health thing given how long it'd been, but this is something quite serious. I will say, some people just don't have the courage to talk about stuff like this. I do because, it's sometimes it is actually easier to put this stuff on YouTube or on social media or anywhere else than it is to say in front of your family and friends, because if this is just an easier way without getting too emotional, without worrying so much as to what's going to happen. It's not nice when this kind of stuff happens, but I'm absolutely fine. There's nothing serious going on. It is serious about the narrowed thing, but hopefully I'm coming out of the end of it. Hopefully. And, I think that's probably now about it. This is going to be quite a long video, but it is I just wanted to be as detailed as I possibly could, okay? Because endoscopies and these kinds of medical procedures do need a good sort of understanding from someone who has had to put up with, I don't know, I'm not saying put up, but who did need to have these procedures, because, it is nerve-wracking. And, if you do feel off and you are persistent, yes, something like this, they probably will say cancer or anything else. It's probably better. It is better. I know everybody can handle medical things in different ways, but just have the more thorough, detailed, the more intense. I wouldn't say this was intense. I would just, maybe the emotions were, but not physically, in terms of it's just an uncomfortable little chew put in your mouth and down your throat. But that's all it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. When we all deal with emotions, we all deal with stuff, whether it's yourself, whether it's a family member, whether it's a close friend. It's just important to just relax, take it steady, and back off from things. Because don't stress out. Try not to stress out about it. Try and keep calm. And just don't do what I did, okay? I should have had this done a long time ago, but I was just Mr. Can't be bothered, can't be asked, can't be bothered. But, finally, I did let me patience drop You shouldn't wait until your patience drops. You suspect anything, because it might be a one-time thing, naturally never happens again, but if it's something consistent, get yourself checked out. That's the best thing to do. I hope you found this video useful, I'll say. If you please give me a like, please put a comment. Now, please be respectful about the comments, okay? If I see anything in there that's inappropriate, I will just delete you. And if you're going to be an ass, then I will report you. I'm not afraid to do that, so be warned about that. So please like, comment, and please hit the subscribe button because it allows you to receive notifications and you'll get a notification of when I make a new upload. They'll probably be slowing down on here a bit again. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, and thank you very much for sitting down and letting me explain about my story with an endoscopy. Thank you.